I went from completely running the company and having all decision making to having zero and no longer being the CEO.
If you could go back in time and talk to Amy, the one that went into that deep depression after you were kicked out of your company, what would you say to her?
The key to success is a lot of little failures, but almost becoming like building up a tolerance to failure.
You learn how to build resiliency, and every time that you fail, you build a little bit more. And I love that you knew in your heart, and this just speaks to who you are as a person, I need to own up to my mistake. Like, I cannot blame this on anybody else.
Learning from those mistakes and being able to implement something new that can be bigger and better and help more people is really the goal for me.
Welcome to the Jen Gottlieb Show.
Hi, welcome back to the Jen Gottlieb Show. So excited about this episode. I chatted with Amy Lacey, the founder of Cali'flour Foods, founder of Soursop Nutrition, and founder of Be Me, which is a new supplement company, skincare line. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We talked about, resilience, failure, how to get up and keep going, how to take action before you're ready. She shared some really intimate details about her life and about her journey starting Cali'flour Foods, losing Cali'flour Foods. And then, of course, at the end, we wrapped up with this amazing rant that she went on about the importance of forgiveness. So you want to tune into this episode. It's incredible. Listen or watch to the very end. Here you go. Without further ado, I'm so thrilled to have my dear friend, Amy Lacey, with us today.
I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited, Jen.
Hi,
This is great.
Okay, so I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, like right off the bat. And I like to go in really deep. There's so many different, we will probably go in every direction under the sun today.
I'm good.
But those of you that are listening, you'll hear Amy's bio later, or you probably heard it before this, that I recorded after the fact. But Amy is an amazing entrepreneur, author, mother, friend, wife. You do all the things. But really what I admire about you the most, Amy, when I'm thinking about there is something unbelievably special about Amy that is very different from most people that I meet, most entrepreneurs.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear this.
and that is that what you do differently is you get an idea and you implement that idea. Most people that I know get an idea and they sit on it for a really long time. They think about it for a really long time. And the more that they think about it, the more that idea kind of fizzles out, the more the resistance creeps in, the more the insecurities creep in, and the more that they convince themselves not to do it. Ever since I've known you, you've had an idea, you've implemented Cali'flour Foods. You had an idea, Soursop, you implemented. It's here, it's real, it's a company. It happened like that.
Well, yeah. Kind of. There was a lot. It took a lot.
You take the steps.
I feel like if there's something that really has changed my life, I almost feel that it's just my meaning to get it out there to everybody. Like, it's my purpose. Like, I need to get it out there and share. So I start with sharing with family and friends, which is what happened way back in my first business, which was an online children's clothing store. And then I did medical lasers, and that became a family business. And then the cauliflower story, that wasn't even supposed to be a business. That was more of like a hobby gone viral.
Talk to me about that. Let's go back to that moment.
Okay.
I want to like take it apart because I've heard the story so many times, but I want to hear parts of it that I don't know. You created this cauliflower pizza crust as a result of you wanting to have pizza parties with your kids again. And you had lupus and you weren't able to eat gluten and dairy. So you're like, how do I create this cauliflower?
I had to go gluten-free, grain-free. And so we were playing around with the recipe. I found it online. And so it wasn't something I created. I actually found it online, but it wasn't in the grocery store. There was just a head of cauliflower in the grocery store. So I discovered I didn't even eat cauliflower. Honestly, I didn't even think it was a vegetable because it was white. And I know you love vegetables. Did you? Have you always been a cauliflower fan?
Always.
Okay.
Ew, I used to eat raw cauliflower, which is not good. I won't eat anymore, but I used to.
It's the last veggie standing on a veggie tray every party.
Unless I'm at a party.
Unless you're at the party. Anyways, what I discovered about cauliflower is that it is so bland, it takes on whatever flavor you put with it. So it was great to make it as a cauliflower pizza crust. But I have to say this, and this is something I'm talking a lot about now. I used to not talk about failure because I didn't want to be affiliated with failure, only success. But epically failed that business so many times, like just starting with the recipe. Like, it would fall apart, it would get mushy. Once the business went viral, So we shared a story. So I'm really big into sharing stories and story brand. And we talk a lot about that. You talk about that at Build Your Brand Live, about how important it is to tell your story.
How did you tell that story, though? Because when you created this pizza crust, you didn't have really a platform at that time. You were a mom making pizza crust in your kitchen. So was it like, I'm going to tell people this story and I'm going to create a business? Or was it like, I have this stuff, it's really good, everyone try it?
So it's so funny because I had no platform. I wasn't on Instagram. I was on Facebook just to see like friends, kids, and stuff like that. But what I did was I had a pretty remarkable story, and it wasn't my story that I told. It was somebody else's story. And they ended up losing a lot of weight eating cauliflower pizza crust. But more importantly, their severely nonverbal autistic daughter, the doctors put her on a low-carb diet. She was eating our pizza crust twice a day. After 7 months, she became verbal. And her mom lost 100 pounds, which I know, you being a former trainer, is not healthy to lose 100 pounds in 7 months, but she did. And so basically we just shared that on Facebook, and we got shut down because you can't, at that time, you couldn't share weight loss stories. I don't know if you can now. But so we just shared Kenzie's story of going from nonverbal to verbal by eating a low carb diet. It turns out our pizza's low carb. I didn't even plan it to be low carb. I just planned it because it was gluten-free, grain-free, and I could eat it and have family fun night again with my kids. So that story of Jessie and Kenzie went viral. And then we put a Facebook ad to it. We put an ad to the Facebook post. And like I said, it got shut down first. So we rewrote it and it went viral. It sold more in 1 month than we had sold the previous year. And then we just kept telling different people's stories and getting the word out there. But it was all done through Facebook and online. We didn't have an email list at that time. So then I listened to a podcast. By the way, podcasts are so important to listen to. They have become my MBA podcast. So I listened to The Power of Jeff Walker and implemented what he said to do to create an email list. And our first email that we put out there, it just sold like $86,000 worth of pizza on one email. So email became very important. Building a community, which I know you talk a lot about, you have phenomenal community, is so important. So we started doing that.
You're listening to The Jen Gottlieb Show.
I want to go back even before the story, because a lot of people are sitting here probably with an idea. Maybe it is to create a food product or like a physical product. And they're like, well, how do I even put it in packaging? How do I even, like, that's the part that you skipped over that I don't need. Like, you had these boxes with like the cauliflower pizza crust in it. Like, how did you make that happen and actually have a product that you could sell to tell stories about?
So we took it to farmer's market, and at farmer's market, you needed to have it in packaging. So we did packaging. It was an epic failure. Our first packaging was an epic failure. And I had to figure out, because it was so natural and there was no preservatives in our products, it would mold. So I had to figure out how to make it last longer than 2 days, because I'm not going to sell it if it's only lasting 2 days. So we figured out how to vacuum seal, which is how a lot of products stay fresh when they have no preservatives in them. Okay. So it's just like a lot of research. But we rebranded 3 or 4 times with Cali'flour. And every version of it, you can see the growth. So don't give up. I mean, there were times where, we had a packaging error, and it was my fault because I was the final person to sign off on it. And that cost us $1 million.
Wow. Wait, What was that?
Well, the macros were wrong, and I was the one to sign off on the packaging. And ironically, this is kind of funny, but I was down in LA and I was on a speaking panel with a bunch of ex-bachelorettes and Tori Spelling, just like a random panel. I'm not even sure why I was on there, but we were all moms. I guess that's why we were on there. We were moms. I was on there with them. I'm like the oldest person on there, but I get this emergency 911 from my team. And so as soon as I got off the panel, I went and they told me that the packaging was off and that the sales were dropping, and somebody was basically being very vocal about how our macros were off. And I'm like, shoot, let me look at this. And sure enough, they were off. And what we did was we my team was like, we should just blame it on the packaging company because we can say that they made a mistake. Nobody knows them. And I thought long and hard about it. I almost did that. Because then we wouldn't take the blame. But then I was like, no, that's not the right thing to do because that's just putting it on to somebody else. I need to own this. This is my mistake. And it's just from me being too busy and not looking at the details. And so we put out an email. That's why email is so important. It's such a great way to communicate with your tribe. We put out an email. I apologized, told them basically what happened. And the next day we had the biggest sales day we had ever had online. And it was just about being transparent and being truthful and honest and admitting your failure because we all fail, right? And what I'm learning too is that the key to success is a lot of little failures, but almost becoming like building up a tolerance to failure. And I'm starting to realize that parents, like those parents that every kid should get a trophy, for all you parents out there, it is really important for your kids to learn how to fail, to be able to move forward. Like you need to be able to build almost like an immunity to failure, like a tolerance. So if you have a lot of little failures, when the big ones hit, they're not so devastating. They don't kill your business. You learn how to pivot and make it work.
It's resiliency.
Resilience.
You need to learn how to build resiliency. Absolutely. And every time that you fail, you build a little bit more. And I love that you knew in your heart, and this just speaks to who you are as a person, I need to own up to my mistake. Like I cannot blame this on anybody else. I have to own up to it. And I think that people saw that and they felt really connected to you because I do believe that a lot of Cali'flour's success came from the fact that you were the co-founder and the story behind it and that you created it and the authenticity that you have and the connection that you have with your community. But I want to keep talking about this story because those of you that don't know the story of Cali'flour, it is no longer, right?
I know. So I sold a huge chunk of it off in 2019. There was a big fire in Northern California called the Camp Fire. Mm-hmm. It burned in town down that my extended family lived in. And most of those people don't have a lot of money and their houses actually didn't burn, so they didn't get the insurance. So I was like, well, maybe this is a sign from God that I had been getting offers. Maybe it's time for me to pursue some of this. Plus, I was gone all the time. And
offers to sell cauliflower.
To sell, to
either
bring in capital, because we basically ran it ourselves. We didn't take in any money. We didn't bring in investors. And we, at this point, we're over $20 million in revenue, actually. And we were selling a pizza crust every 6 seconds.
Wow.
So it was crazy, the growth that we experienced. So I decided the fire was definitely a sign that I needed to probably sell a portion of it off and help my family and get them out of Northern California. So that's what we did. We brought in some venture capitalists, and they pretty much took it over right away. I have to say, if you're thinking about bringing in any kind of equity into your business, you need to talk to a lot of people about the differences between, angel investors or venture capitalists. You need to know, because venture capitalists, it was a very stressful time for me. So a lot of things changed that I wasn't expecting. And I went from completely running the company and having all decision-making to having zero and no longer being the CEO. And they actually put me on sabbatical. And so it was a
Did they do
time.
some stuff without you knowing, like firing your team and kicking you off of? Yeah.
They fired the team, and they, when I was on sabbatical, they changed all my passwords. And part of that, and this is so important too, when you're creating a business, and I know you know this, it's really important to have strong emotional intelligence. And I can admit now, I can look back and see where I was lacking emotional intelligence during that time. I was like, for lack of a better word, throwing a temper tantrum because of the decisions they were doing. They were doing things like they weren't taking care of the email list. They weren't taking care of the community that we had built. Customer service was so important to me. I had more customer service people than I had sales reps. And that was all going by the wayside. Like, they were just focused on one thing, and that was getting into as many stores as possible. So I think I lacked emotional intelligence, and the easiest way for them to deal with me was to put me on sabbatical and change my passwords and eliminate my access to the company that I built.
What do you do in that moment when you realize you can't log into anything and your team's being fired? What do you do? Like, how did you respond? Where did life go at that moment? This thing that you birthed, your baby, your creation that you built to $20 million, and you've been kicked out of it. Over.
No, you know what? It wasn't about the money for me. So I don't know why I just said that, but it was like having a fourth child. So I have 3 kids. So I felt like it was like my fourth child. And it was, it was very, very stressful. I went into a deep depression, honestly. I went into a very deep depression for like a year and a half. And then I went and got therapy. And that's a whole nother story. And we can go there too, because that's when I started dealing with what I believe actually got me sick to begin with. I mean, cauliflower was birthed out of the fact that I needed to eat pizza still, and I couldn't eat regular pizza because of all of the autoimmune issues that I was having and the inflammation that bread was causing me, or gluten. And I believe I got lupus because of trauma that was never resolved, unresolved childhood trauma. So when I went into therapy for the depression I was feeling about being locked out of my business, we started doing a deeper dive, as therapists do, into your childhood. And the real stuff came out that I had to work on. And that's when I realized I actually developed an appreciation for the venture capitalists through therapy. Like, without them, Soursop wouldn't exist. Yeah. So that's when I went on a mission looking for Soursop. So yeah,
it's the perfect transition to talk about what's next. But I do want to ask you a question. Hindsight is the most beautiful thing, perspective, right? When you're in it, you can't see how it's going to be. I don't like saying things are always happening for you, because in that moment, it was definitely not happening for you. It was definitely not.
No.
But when we look backwards now, sitting here talking about it, you can say I wouldn't have created Soursop. I wouldn't have gone to therapy, and I wouldn't have healed a lot of my trauma, and I wouldn't have figured out all these things. And you've become, I've watched you evolve into a different version of Amy Lacey, and you really have become this evolved version of you because of all this stuff that happened. So I always like to ask people this question, and usually I do it not on a podcast and not in public, but I think that you'd be open to play this with me.
Sure.
No, the person that you are now, Amy now, knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time and talk to Amy, the one that went into that deep depression after you were kicked out of your company, what would you say to her?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I would say, get back up. You're just getting started. So I believe the rejection I was feeling, which brought me back to the rejection I felt as a child from, I was in a foster home for a while. I lived on the streets for a while. The rejection I felt from my parents, I think that started manifesting itself when I was feeling the rejection from this new team that was running my company, my fourth baby. But now I look at it and I think, oh no, that was just, the rejection I felt was just redirection for another reason, another season. Like it was protection and it was redirection. And so, I feel like now I could look back and think, oh, I'm so glad all that happened, because now I'm in such a better place. But it took a lot of failures, a lot of pain, and a lot of work to get to where I am today. And I'm 54 and I'm just getting started. Like I feel like I'm just getting started.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to close the loop on cauliflower before we move on to Soursop. What ended up happening to the company?
Yeah, so that's really stressful and really painful, actually, because as you know, we were both in the 100 Mil Mastermind, and I did an introduction to the venture capitalists, to the 100 Mil team, because they were doing investments. And I thought this would be a great fit. Now, mind you, I have not been able to see numbers. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Cali'flour.
Yeah, let me just back it up so people understand. So the 100 million masterminds and mastermind that we're both in, and every time we all get together, it's very high net worth individuals, people that like to invest in companies and are very smart, a lot of them have big, well-known companies or well-known followings. And each time we get together, they will give us an opportunity to invest in a company. And so you guys know basically what she just said. I just want to make it clear because some people have no idea what 100 mil is or what a mastermind is. So Amy and Cauliflower was one of the opportunities for us to all invest in.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I was not a part of the negotiations during that time. So I couldn't tell what the numbers were. I wasn't sure what was going on behind the scenes, but I thought, well, these guys are genius at online e-commerce businesses. So that's what Cali'flour is lacking. Like that's what went down really when the venture capitalists came in. So I think the combo could be really good. So I did an introduction. I can remember feeling very bitter, and in hindsight, I'm glad now, but really bitter that I wasn't a part of the meetings. Because I'm like, I introduced you guys to these people. They're going to invest, and yet I'm not a part of any of the meetings. So when Joel and Dan and all those guys from the 100 mil were meeting with the venture capitalists, I wasn't a part of those meetings. So I didn't actually know what the deal was. And now, they walked away from it and it's been shut down. And I think what happened was Tattooed Chef went under, which was another very popular cauliflower company. And then the whole category was starting to go under, kind of like what happened with kale. Like it was really popular really fast, and then it started to go down. And so there's only so much room for a few cauliflower companies. And I think we were right there because, from what I know, they bought another company and things were going really well, but for some reason it shut down. And so a lot of people that I care about deeply lost money on this investment, which if I could go back, I would have never done the introduction. So that's the painful part for me, is to know that people may have invested because of me being the founder, may have invested in knowing that they thought this business was growing so well and doing so well. I'm not sure what was told to those people in those meetings. And so it's frustrating to me because I don't know how to fix it, right? You want to fix things. You want to help people. So it was really painful. So I've often thought, because I'm just getting started, that when this business hits that 9-figure point, I want to go back and find the people that I really care about that invested in Cali'flour and make it right. Even though I had nothing to do with it and I didn't benefit, I didn't collect a dime on their money. It all went to the company. I still feel this obligation, like I want to make that right for them, because these are good people. These are people that believed in it and put some of their savings in it.
Well, I believe that this new company that you're creating is going to be a huge success. Tell me about it. I know. I see. Look at you, get really bright. Now, this is another example of Amy just getting introduced to something, a really cool ingredient.
Yes.
And taking action, not being, not just sitting on it being, oh, this would be cool. It's like, no, I see this. There's an opportunity here. Here we go. We're starting a company. We're creating a product. You jumped right on in. Tell us about Soursop and how you discovered it.
So during the time when I was on sabbatical and my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and so was my right-hand person from Cali'flour, Jimmy. They were both diagnosed at the same time. One was going holistic, one was going traditional radiation chemotherapy. So I was doing a lot of research, and I don't promote Soursop for cancer. I can't. But if you Google natural holistic ways for cancer to help either the healing process or even to prevent, you will see that Soursop pops up as a fruit. Now, again, I don't promote it for that. I don't say our product prevents cancer or anything like that. I can't do that. But that's how I found it. And I was like, wow, this is a really ugly fruit. Like, I don't even know if I want to try it. It's so ugly, but so is cauliflower. And it turned out to be amazing. So I bought some fruit and I started making some smoothies for my mom. And the fruit was $30 a piece of fruit. And it was, some of the fruit showed up and it was spoiled and it was just very expensive. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, who can afford this? And then I started doing some of the other research, and I found some negative things that were written about the fruit, the seeds, the leaves. And so I took the science behind that, the positive and the negative, and I worked with a team on innovation, which is great. So I didn't create the product. I worked with a team of physicians as well as non-physicians, and we created this product, and now it's gummies and it shakes, and it's soon to be so many more products. But the funny thing is I'm already rebranding. I'm already redoing the packaging and the name and the whole bit. Like, we are
You're redoing the name?
We're redoing the name, yes.
So by the time this comes out, it might not be called Soursop anymore?
It's probably not. The business has always been Be Me, and it's basically been Be Me doing business as Soursop. So yeah, we're going to go into Be Me. So that here's why. With cauliflower, one of the things that was told to me during the time when I was trying to sell it is that my multiples were less because I had locked myself into a single ingredient. So funny thing is, I should remember that, right? So the team is in Boston at an event with Soursop, and my investment banker that helped me do the deal helped me create the deck. By the way, if you're going to try to sell your company, you need to have a really good deck. He helped me create the deck. He said, and Jimmy was there, I wasn't there, and he said, Amy's doing it again. She's locking herself into a single ingredient, and it's gonna hurt her multiples when she goes to exit. So I had already filed under the Be Me trademark, and I'm like, well, I love Be Me because it's all about getting back to being your natural self. Like, our sleep line that's coming out has no melatonin in it. It's all about being able to sleep and getting back into your natural rhythm. And so it's about being your natural self again. Be Me that's what it's supposed to be. And so Soursop, we ended up doing Soursop Nutrition as a name because of the SEO. Because if people type in Soursop, we want to come up, and a lot of people didn't know what Soursop was. So that was the reason why we launched it that way. But I think we're ready. It's funny too, because if you look at Google Trends, if you're interested in anything and you want to see if it's going to be a viable trend or business, you can go to Google Trends and type it in and see how it's trending, really.
Yeah.
So Soursop is trending straight up, like cauliflower used to be. Cauliflower is now trending down. So I know a lot of people don't know about Soursop yet, but we're doing our best to educate them. And there's already competitors out there now, which is so funny because we were the first. And there's already competitors, which, says it's a good thing when there's competitors.
Absolutely.
But that business wouldn't have come about had I not done the deep trauma work. Because honestly, I was like ready to retire and be done. And just, I made some money. So I moved my family out of California to Florida. We bought our dream house on the water, the whole bit. Like, life should be really good. I feel like the cancer and finding the fruit. And then I left this part out, but I started eating the fruit myself and experimenting with different products, and I could see what it was doing for my inflammation, which was phenomenal. It was clearing my inflammation up. And so I'm like, okay, this is really good, because we all are suffering from inflammation, whether you've been diagnosed with something or not. We all have inflammation attacking. It's kind of a silent killer. It's attacking us in some way. And so a lot of times you can't see what it's doing to you internally. And a lot of it comes from the food industry and our pesticides and things like that. I mean, it's really bad if you look at the food industry. And I've been knee deep in the food industry now. I mean, like, the FDA allows a 20% variance on labels. So you can have 20% more hydrogenated oil or sugar in your product and not claim it. I mean, there's a lot of, I hope nobody sues me over this, but there's a lot of corruption in the food industry. And so I was like, wow, this is a powerful superfood that I think we can make a very clean version of it, and it will help people's inflammation. And so then it became so much more, does so much more. It helps with gut health. It helps with your skin. We're coming out with a skincare line. It really helps with anxiety. So even my 10-year-old nephew is taking it, and he is on the spectrum, and he has a lot of anxiety. It's helping him as well. So we don't promote it for kids.
Delicious. Here's what I'll say about Soursop. I eat 8 of those gummies a day. I know because I have the packs with them, and I eat 4 in the morning and 4 at night. They're my candy, and they're delicious. So that's what I will say about Soursop.
So when we rebrand, we're changing the dosing because for some reason I decided because it was a supplement, it should be 2 gummies.
You can't just eat 2 gummies.
No, and it
so good.
can be an adult fruit snack. I mean, it's fruit. It's basically echinacea, elderberry, and soursop.
It's so good.
Get outside of your comfort zone and into your best life, one small step at a time.
Okay, so I want to go back into because I remember you coming over to our apartment and you're like, we created a new company. Here it is. It's like, we're already going. We're launching. It's happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if everybody out there that had an idea had your superpower of taking action and implementing and moving past that resistance, we would have a lot more really cool ideas floating around out in the world, I think. Do you get that? I call it the inner BFF, the inner blocker of future fulfillment, that voice that comes like, you should start tomorrow. You should, I'm talking about that in my TED Talk next week. Yeah, it's good, right? Because we have that voice. It's like that frenemy it's that frenemy that you think wants the best for you, but secretly they're just trying to sabotage you because your success makes them really uncomfortable. We all have that voice in the back of our head.
Yes.
Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance in his book, The War of Art. Like, you shouldn't start that now. Why? How? Like, who are you to start that? You already did cauliflower. You did it. You're done. Just live your life. Be happy. Why would you start another company? Did you have any of that? If so, how did you move through and take action anyway?
Yes, I had that. And I had people saying that to me. I had family saying that to me, like, why are you doing this again? And I had it in my head too. It's like kind of like your book, Be Seen, when you talk about your you 2.0.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a bigger version of me, and I had in my journals, which I keep, I had written down some of the goals and some of the things I wanted to do, and I haven't done them yet. So I'm just getting started. Like, I'm going to do some more things. I think there's a lot there left in me. And I'm starting to bring Jim in too, which is my husband. We've been married 26 years. He's a physician. So we're kind of like, we fight with each other about Western medicine versus holistic medicine. And he's going to come on and help a little bit too. So I'm excited because I think that we have a lot to offer. And as a team, we're really strong. And I've made so many mistakes that I think learning from those mistakes and being able to implement something new that can be bigger and better and help more people is really the goal for me.
I love that. So, I mean, there's nothing that you can't do, because when you put your mind to something, you do it. And I've watched you do this.
And you too.
Thank you.
Like, seriously, think about the growth that you've had. Like, you have this book, and now, I don't know, you just mentioned a TED Talk.
Oh, I'm going to do that next week. Oh my goodness. That's why I was practicing it a little on you right now. I keep trying to practice it every chance I get. But I'm in awe of you. And I really wanted to bring you on the show because a lot of people that listen to my podcast are people that have an idea, or they have a story that was really impactful and their life transformed. And they feel like, who am I to share it? Or who am I to start this? Or who am I to implement? And I feel like you've battled that the whole way, but you don't let it get in your way. And is there anything that you're working on right now that maybe the resistance is up against you a little bit, but you're pursuing anyway? Is there anything that you can share with us that you're a beginner at right now that you're a little afraid of?
So I want to start speaking on stages, but there's a certain stage that I really want to speak on. I feel like my faith carried me through a lot. So I'm a newbie to faith. I didn't grow up with any kind of religion. And I started diving deep into faith just as a part of healing and growth. And I want to be on faith-based business stages. So I have an opportunity that's coming up that I was invited to be on one. I've been on a couple, but my ultimate goal, can I say what my ultimate goal is on here?
Of course, please. Well, now you have to.
Now I have to, and now it has to happen.
Speak it into existence.
I want to travel with Life Surge and speak on their stages.
Okay, Life Surge, you heard it here.
Life Surge, that's what I want to do. And I want to impact as many people as I possibly can with this new product. I feel like it's even medically graded. So I feel like we're in a clinical trial, but I feel like we need to expand on that and do something even deeper. For the skincare line, we're going to work with some dermatologists, and they're going to do a biopsy study, which is going to be amazing. They're so expensive. The studies are so expensive. And it also scares me a little bit that I might get shut down for something because,
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that that's a big fear for a lot of people in every area right now. Cancel culture, saying the wrong thing, you even said that several times. You're like, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, right? And you're dipping your toe into an area into a business where you're making health claims, or you're saying that it's going to help you with your skin or with your, and I'm sure there's so many rules, so many things you can say or you can't say. How are you navigating this? Is there hesitation? I mean, for me, I hesitate sitting down to do a podcast. I'm just going to be honest. There's always some fear in me. Don't say the wrong thing, Jen. Don't, I almost, I have that in just communicating. So I can imagine with starting a business that's a product line, you have that.
Absolutely. So I think one of the mistakes I made with Cali'flour early on was I hired the least expensive attorney I could find because I had no money. And that cost me a lot. That ended up costing me a lot. And what it cost me, just in a quick version of it, was a competitor came out and I did not file my word mark. I filed the trademark, not the word mark, not the logo. And she basically took that. And then her name was very similar to our name. There was a lot of confusion. We had an Albertson Steel that they ended up getting because there was name confusion. So it cost me a lot of money not having a really good attorney in the long run.
Wow.
So now with Soursop, I have a whole slew of good attorneys, and it costs a fortune, but it's so important because, I have the attorney that can tell me exactly the red zone that you cannot talk about, like the cancer, or the yellow zone, which is more talking about gut health or inflammation, or the green zone, being able to talk about immunity and things like that. So definitely have a lot of guidance. It's expensive, but it's worth it because in the long run, you're going to actually save money. So somebody that's just getting started, some of the things that I got zapped on, and my website wasn't compliant, handicap compliant. So there are little trolls out there that look at websites, especially if you're successful, and if you're not handicap compliant, then they threaten to sue you, or you pay them $10,000. I mean, it's a thing that's out there. I know a lot of people that's happened to. So if you have a website and you're getting popular, make sure it's handicap compliant. I mean, there's just so many little things out there that people don't realize, like your fonts. You have to own your fonts. If you don't own your fonts, there's little font trolls out there that say you're violating, and they will buy the font and they will sue you. So, I mean, there's just a lot of little things. As you become very popular, people look for ways to dim that light. So if you have a website and you didn't buy your font, buy your font. It's very inexpensive.
Amy, thank you.
You're looking at me like, uh-oh, do we own our fonts? Yes, look at your fonts and make sure your website's handicap compliant.
So important. This is tactical stuff that everybody can just I think you've saved a lot of people a lot of stress and a lot of money, actually, just from those two tips.
Yeah, so those are things that I think about, and I take those to this business. The other thing that I learned is buying as many domains as you can that are like your current business name, or I said this on stage at your event. It sounds kind of sneaky, but buy your competitors' domains if they didn't know to buy them, for SEO purposes. And so with Cauliflower, we owned a ton of different domains, and with Soursop, we own a bunch of domains as well. So whatever people are Googling, it'll hopefully drive them to, and we drive them to our website. Mm-hmm. So just things like that. And I think too, like Chris knows, he's an expert in AI. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about AI because I think it's going to change the landscape of things, and we have to be really careful about what we're doing in our business with AI. So I'm really throwing the team and myself into that as well. So
great. Anything you can share of what you guys are doing with AI? I mean, there's so many different things that you can do.
Well, one of the things that we found is we had hired a guy to do our emails. And we started getting complaints from some of our very loyal consumers that followed me from Cali'flour saying, hey, I thought you were authentic. Your emails are no longer authentic. I'm like, what is going on? I didn't know that he was taking AI and writing the email directly from AI. I didn't realize that. I mean, I was reading the emails, but I didn't pick up on it. And they're like, it doesn't sound like you, but your name's on it. And so one of the things that I've learned is, we can still use AI to write our emails, but the best thing to do is go in and ask, and Chris probably teaches this, and I know other people have, you go in and you ask ChatGPT to give you 25 questions that you should be able to answer about your company, about you, about your avatar, about your consumers, and it'll spit out 25 questions. You answer them from your voice, and then you go back to that same ChatGPT file, and when you go to write an email, it's going to pick up your voice and write it as your voice.
I love that tip.
Yeah, I don't know if Chris shares that, but 25 questions seems to be the magic thing. And we do that with our blogs. We do that with our emails. So yes, we're still using AI to help us write emails. We no longer have that guy. He doesn't work for us anymore because he was solely there's also apps, as you know, that you can plug in and see if AI wrote the whole thing. Now, if you plug in our email that AI helped us write based on my answers, it will say a human wrote it. It will not say AI. Because it's taking the answers that you provided, it's taking that and expanding on that. And if you're going to create a business, you should know who your target audience is. You should know everything about them, give them a name, do a SWOT analysis on that target audience. Do the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And you should know exactly who you're targeting. And then you should be able to answer those questions. And then it will write blogs and emails sounding like you.
And I do think that you also you always know your customer, like you, Amy, whenever you're speaking on stage, or even when you're here sitting on a podcast, thinking about who's listening to this, you're really good at that. You make people feel very seen because I can see that you're visualizing a very specific human that's listening to you talk. And that's a superpower that you have. And I think that
Thank you.
AI is great, and AI can help us scale much faster and write emails faster and grow faster. And it is the future 100%. But when you're communicating here, it's really also, it's very, very important for you to understand your ideal client avatar and speak to them. I have a really important question for you. We're going to go off topic for a second because this is something that I wanted to ask you that I didn't. And I know you raised money this time around for this new company. Yeah. And there are people that are listening that are thinking about raising capital, but hate asking for help. They hate selling stuff. They hate getting in a room and pitching themselves. And that is stopping them from doing everything. Tell me about that experience raising capital. I think it was for the raising money to start. This was your first time, right?
This is the first time I actually raised money before the business actually was even launching. We raised capital well in advance. This is stressful. It's way more stressful, in my opinion, to raise capital first. The actual raising of capital was easy. It's now you have other people's money in your hands that you're responsible for. With Cali'flour, all the mistakes I made, that $1 million costly mistake, I didn't lose sleep over it. Now, I'm, okay, these are other people's money. I have to do my due diligence. I have to be very responsible on a level that I have never experienced before. And so just making certain decisions has been very difficult for me. I've really you talk about overthinking. I've almost overthought things too much. It's very important to put systems in place so you're not overthinking.
Give me an example of that, how you can make a decision quickly, because I can't even imagine this. If I had raised millions of dollars from other people and I have a decision that I need to make, and the outcome could either be I'm losing a lot of people's hard-earned money that they gave me that I'm responsible for, or I'm going to win. You're not just betting on yourself. Well, you are, but you're also betting with other people's money. How do you make that decision in the best way?
Yes. So it's, it is a lot of overthinking, which I've had to learn. It's a new skill set that I'm learning, is to not overthink. And the more organized and the more systems I have in place, the easier that is. So I have met so many people that created a business without a business plan. Now, it doesn't have to be an elaborate business plan, but at least know the direction you're going. I spoke on a stage recently, and there was probably 75 people. It was a smaller stage, and only one person knew what a SWOT analysis is. And so I tried to explain what it was. It confused the audience, but it's very simple. You know, you can Google SWOT analysis and get a basic one. You need to do that for every decision that you make, in my opinion. It doesn't have to take days or weeks. It can take an hour just to really...
Tell the audience really quick, just in case they don't know what SWOT
analysis is basically a chart, and it's got strengths, threats, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. There's my dyslexia kicking in. And you can cross over, but you need to write out all the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, and really know. And this is how I make a decision, by doing that. So that's really important to have that. I think with other people's money, it does bring a whole new element of stress. So I'm building a board right now. I just got a new investor. When I look at investors, it's not about the money that they can bring in. It's about who they are and the skill set that they have. So it's really been about that more than about the money. The money is great because it alleviates some of the stress that I felt with Cali'flour when I was diving into our personal money. And I have personal money into this business, but I'm financially in a different situation than I was back then. So the money part, yes, it's very stressful. I don't want to lose anybody's money. I want to make them millions. That's the goal, and help people along the way. But it does. It was almost paralyzing me from making decisions. For example, just talking about rebranding, the packaging. I've never loved the packaging, but I went with the packaging because I felt like it was a safe way to go. It wasn't the vision that I had for the original packaging. And now I'm like, no, I'm going back to what my gut originally said.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool because you can always go back.
You can always go back.
For the most part.
There
are some decisions that you make that you can't go back
with Cali'flour.
Yeah.
I can't go back with that. That's ended. And, you know, there are sometimes decisions that you make and you don't see right away what the outcome is going to be or the consequences. But Cali'flour is a great example of that. But I think if you just stick with it and you work hard and you keep going and you don't quit, you only lose when you quit. So yeah, you have to pivot. Yeah, you've got to get scrappy. You've got to think of how, other ways to, be successful in your business, to keep your business alive. I mean, there's already been mishaps with Soursop. The inventory, like I have to order the inventory. Whereas before, people would buy a cauliflower pizza, we would make it. Now it's like you've got to have the PO orders. You've got to anticipate. And so I have 58,000 bottles of this bottle that I don't even like the look of. But no, we have a plan for it. So yeah, it is stressful having other people's money. But actually getting people, involved, one of the things that I did that I think was a huge help was creating a really phenomenal deck that talked about the trends of supplements, where they're at, in particular gummies. It talked about the fruit itself. It talked about the science behind it. It talked about the people behind it, and also what the future plans are with the funding. I think a really nice deck is very important. It's funny because I've been asked to be kind of like, those little mock Shark Tank type things. Mm-hmm. I'm doing one next week, actually. And it's amazing to me that people want you to invest in their company, but they don't have a deck. They don't know their numbers. If the business is already established, you've got to know your numbers.
So important.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you're a very faith-based woman, so I can imagine that you have to have faith in your decisions.
A lot of faith.
And you have to know how to listen to your intuition.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that plays a big part too, because you can only control so much. You can only do so many SWOT analyses and think about risk reward and if this is going to work. But at the end of the day, we don't have control over a lot of things, and we really just have to have faith. And is there any moments where you're just I just give it up and I'm just going to believe and we'll see what happens?
All the time. And it's been such a gift that I can do that because it allows me to sleep at night. And that wasn't always the case for me. I used to have severe anxiety. I mean, I knew you guys when I had that. It was debilitating. It would prevent me from showing up. And so faith has really helped me in that, knowing that it's not about me. There's something bigger out there. And as soon as I got the focus off of me, it was like, yeah, I can do this, because I'm thinking about somebody else and not just myself. Although I think your business is best, and Rory Vaden says this, when you serve the person you once were. And so in that respect, I like to serve people that, have struggled like I have. But I also need to get out of my own way and think about others. And it's part of what healed me too from depression was volunteering. Doing that Warrior Women's event, helping other businesses go from brick and mortar to click and order during COVID, volunteering my time, charging too. I had some clients, paid clients, that have done very well. So that got me out of my way as well. But yeah, that self-talk, it can really do some damage.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I know. And I really feel like the more that we have these conversations and the more that we just say it out loud, that we, even like some of the most successful women that I know, like Amy, like we have bouts of anxiety, depression, negative self-talk, all of that stuff. It's normal, and it's not really necessarily about not having it. It's about how you move through it and how you get to the other side of it.
How you move through it is exactly right. So you can self-sabotage yourself, which is what I once did. I used to be a binge eater, I used to have an eating disorder, and that self-sabotage, whenever I got stressed or whatever, that's what I would do. That also prevented me from moving forward or being in rooms or showing up. So just getting through it. And it's so much easier just to do it, even if you fail, than to sabotage yourself. Or like, I love what you said recently at one of the events I heard you speak. You said, I lay in bed and I think about what I did that day. And there have been so many times where I've laid in bed and I thought, why didn't I show up? Why didn't I show up for myself and for others? Why did I self-sabotage? Why did I choose to go binge eat instead of going to the event? Why was I so scared? And I don't do that anymore. I just go. Even when I don't want to go, I go. And it's always better.
You're always happy you went.
You're always happier. And
you're always happy you went. Yeah.
And I get a lot of people that reach out to me and say, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough. And it's like, are you kidding? I feel like if I can do it, anybody can. Because I came from such a hard childhood and so many things happened. And I put myself through school, which I don't even use, so I'm not saying you should go to school. But I'm a successful wife of 26 years of marriage. I have 3 kids. I'm living vicariously through them. They're amazing human beings. So Jim and I did something right. And I didn't have an example of how to raise kids. So I read a lot of books. So for business, I don't have an MBA. I don't have a degree in business. I have a degree in child psychology. And so I've read a lot of business books. Like Google can be your professor. I mean,
it's really amazing. It's really like, and you have done it, and you're an amazing example of somebody to look up to. I love bringing people like you on the show because you share what's real. You share what's real. You share, like, this is what I struggled with. This is what really happened. This is where I failed. And life is not perfect in roses in a highlight reel on social media. There's all of this and success as well. Yeah. And you're sitting here and you made it through, and we're all here. And if you're listening to this, you've made it through all of your worst days, your hardest days. But Amy, we're wrapping up now. I just want you to tell everybody like where they can find you, where they can find Soursop or Be Me, which will probably be Me by the time you're listening to this. But I know everyone's going to want to connect with you. So where can they find you?
Okay, so I manage my own Instagram.
Yep.
And so if you DM me, I will respond to you. And then Soursop Nutrition's going to be around. The website will still be there, soursopnutrition.com. We have Be Me, which I bought Cali'flour's old social media sites, and we're converting those over to Be Me, which is just really about being back to yourself. So we're going to have a community there. We're going to have a Facebook group, and we're going to have a magazine that we're doing every month. So there's going to be some cool resources around Be Me. But Soursop Nutrition will still be there. It'll host all the products. We have a lot of products coming out. I'm excited about that. We're doing our second round of investing. So if you're interested in coming along, we do retreats. It's a little bit different than your typical investment. So it's exciting because we all collab together, and I'm sad that you won't be there in Tahoe, but our next one's in Tahoe in the fall. And yeah, I love to help people. So if you have any questions or anything you just want to talk, I can say one thing that I've been saying a lot, and I said it on your stage. I really want everyone to think about who they have to forgive. Because for me, going through the 16 months of therapy and forgiveness is what has allowed me to go forward. It really is huge. And I feel compelled to talk about it. And I get a lot of people in my DM thanking me for it. It's not about the other person that did you wrong. Because if I could sit here and tell you all the stories about what my real father did to me, it would be horrific. But I've forgiven. It's for yourself. It's for you to heal. And truly, forgiveness is a choice and the healing is a process. And so whatever that looks like for you, for me, it was my faith, it was meditation, it was all different kinds of things. But it has opened the doors. It has opened the doors for so much, for clarity, for connection. I'm not angry. It takes a lot. Even my team, my old cauliflower team is part of Soursop now. They're my team. And they're like, you are so different. And it's healing, and it's all about love. And it's just so much better than to hold on to that resentment and anger. And so it's not like you're letting that person off the hook. You know, my real dad's since passed away. It's not like I let him off the hook, but it freed me and it allowed me to move forward. So any of you that have somebody that you need to forgive, even if it's yourself, you need to work on that. It's so important because the growth will come from that. It'll be massive growth.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. That was amazing. Everybody, please go connect with Amy Lacey. She just told you DM her and you guys can just have a conversation. I love that so much. Thank you for being here. You're wonderful. And go check out all of the exciting things that Amy's doing, including Soursop, of course, and try those gummies. They are so delicious. I will see you next time on another episode of The Jen Gottlieb Show. Bye.